is a huge secret hidden deep underneath the ice in Antarctica. Military whistleblowers tell me that there are very large alien structures under 2 miles of Antarctic ice that have carved symbols and hieroglyphs that match similar structures carved with symbols and hieroglyphs on the backside and inside of our moon. This lunar backside was photographed in a NASA Clementine mission in the early 1990s. Over many years, astronomers have occasionally reported seeing unexplained lights on the moon. Military whistleblowers also report that the Cydonia region of Mars, famous for the 1.2-mile-long and 1-mile-wide face on Mars, has buried archaeology that matches the hieroglyphs and symbols on the moon and deep under ice in Antarctica. Those whistleblowers are puzzled and angry that a few unidentified power brokers on Earth are keeping secret from the whole human civilization the astounding Antarctica alien structures carved with the glyphs and symbols. Geophysicists say that Antarctica was a warm tropical climate without any ice and snow from at least 100 million years ago, after the big continent broke off from the ancient primal land mass of Pangaea and moved south for millions of years to settle at the Earth's South Pole. Then by 34 million years ago, everything started changing to very cold temperatures, with lots of snow and ice building up 1 to 2 miles, even 3 miles deep all over the continent. So when were the vast black structures built that military whistleblowers say they have walked through under deep ice in Antarctica? And who built them? In August 2003, a Navy SEAL lieutenant commander, who asked me to call him Spartan 1 and to not identify his SEAL team number, was assigned to go to Antarctica to extract a scientist who had been photographing and studying thousands of the glyphs and symbols carved there that resemble Egyptian and Mayan but were unknown. Spartan 1 traveled on half-tracks from the American McMurdo Base inland to the Beardmore Glacier region. He could see the top of a black octagon structure that protruded 18 feet above the melting ice and snow. There was a strange door 23 feet high and 18 feet thick. When Spartan 1 touched it, the huge door slid open rapidly and revealed a huge 9-acre room. At one end of the large space was a ramp that went down and down through 2 other octagon entrances and ramps that reached more layers of large structures 1 to 2 miles deep under the Antarctic ice.
At that time, I was Lieutenant Commander.
Naval Special Operations, SEAL Team. We were dispatched for, unofficially, was a research reconnaissance mission. Officially, it was to find a certain individual, obtain any information, and bring it back. Our contact that we were supposed to bring back out decided to stay inland. To gather as much information as he could. What we did obtain, or what I obtained, witnessed, was photographs and first-hand stories of what they had found, what they photographed, which I saw.
What date?
That had to be August of 2003. We were inbound the southeast coast of Antarctica. Our original transport was a United States aircraft carrier. From that on, we were flown by Nighthawk helicopters. We took half-tracks in to our final contact. The very first wall structure we came to and the first door we came through, we were approximately 50 feet under the ice. The very tip or very top of this first structure, it was like an octagon inside another octagon inside another octagon.
8-sided?
Yes, ma'am. And it went deeper. Each one was deeper. The very top of the first structure that we entered, there was almost 18 feet poking from the ice. The rest of it was hidden under the ice. The first 17 to 20 feet that was sticking out were made of black basalt. I look at them in the colored photographs, they look like shiny black marble.
Do you mean that any of us, if we went into McMurdo and we got on a truck that could go on the ice, and that we would see shiny?
You would have, yes, you would have no, you would have to see it. There's no way of not seeing it.
Why aren't other people reporting this?
Either paid off not to speak or scared, threatened.
And why would people be threatened about reporting archaeology in Antarctica?
Because I think of other things that they have found there, the technology, it's hard telling what all is there. It needs to be found out. It needs to be reported.
This force that's been active since about when?
I would say, I know at least from 2003, but I can about guarantee way before that.
How far back?
I think this structure was found, from what I was told by an individual, in the early 14th and 15th century, but they didn't know what they found.
There is speculation that Phoenicians 2,000 years ago in their great sailing ships might have crossed the oceans and reached North America and perhaps even the waters around the South Pole's Antarctica. But the first alleged, more probable contact of humans with Antarctica is in the oral history of a canoe voyage by Polynesians across the Pacific Ocean around 650 AD. Then, in 1513, the Piri Reis map was discovered that appears to show a partial coastline of Antarctica, but the original creation date and source of the map are unknown. Then, in the late 1500s, a Dutchman named Dirk Gerritz sailed to the South Shetland Islands in Antarctic waters. Finally, in 1773, the British Empire's Captain James Cook was the first person to cross the Antarctic Circle, and 2 years later, in February 1775, Cook sailed the seas around Antarctica.
They recently went back. Recently, I say recently, it was in the late 1950s, early 1960s. This coalition that I talk about is Great Britain, United States, France, Germany, Canada, Russia. There has been a space fleet in existence for the last 25 years.
When you say space fleet, who is paying for and operating?
All of these coalition countries.
Can you name the very specific part of Antarctica?
We were held as a blacklist. We were not told the exact location. We were given a latitude but not a longitude. The compound was in 3 stages, hidden under the ice. Each door was the same, anywhere from 18 feet thick to around 30 feet thick. I did not have standard hinges like what we see today on the door. It's not on a frame to the side. They were on pivots, one at the very top and one at the bottom. And even though these doors were that thick and that heavy, you could take one finger and push them and they would open. There was no resistance whatsoever.
What about the ceilings, hallways, floors?
As far as walking into certain rooms of the lower structures, the light automatically turns on. The walls themselves were anywhere from 18 feet thick to 30 feet thick, and that was from both the base to the ceiling. It was lighted from the inside, but we could not find the source of light. It was a lime green in color.
A lime green?
Yes, ma'am.
What of this room would glow lime green in Antarctica?
The walls themselves looked like it was backlit from the base of the floor or the top of the ceiling. It would look like somebody had put a light under a cabinet to hide the light. You could see the light itself, but you could not see the light fixture. There's no lamps, no bulbs, no wires of any kind. These structures, once you got inside, the outside temperature was at least 40 degrees below zero. Once you stepped inside these structures, the temperature was an ambient 68 to 72 degrees. No outside generators. The people that were there were not heating these structures. They had no means to. They were only there to take photographs, take analysis of the structure, find out what they could.
How much did the man who took the photos say? How big was this facility?
This one facility, there was more than one. The one that we were at stretched almost over 62 acres.
62?
Yes, ma'am. The majority of it was under the ice. Ceilings were around 22 to 28 feet in height. The walls were lined with what I call hieroglyphics, but nothing of hieroglyphics that I've ever seen in my life. They did not look Egyptian, they were not Mayan, but they looked similar to both. The only thing that I myself could tell from one of the panels that was on the walls would look like a star map or a star chart.
The door?
The door itself is 17.5 feet wide, 18 feet thick, 23 feet tall.
And that's the one with the black sun carved into it?
Yes, ma'am.
You open that door, like if it pivots around, what's on the other side?
The other side was a very large room that encompassed almost 9 acres. There was a ceiling complete, but there was no center pillars holding it up. It took me a good 15 minutes to walk from one wall to the next wall. Once I went inside the first door, when you go all the way to the end, you can turn, then you can see the ramp. You cannot see the ramp from one end because of the way the lighting is from the walls and the ceiling. You cannot see that ramp until you're almost upon it. It's like a visual trick to the eye. There's no hallways or anything. It's just one huge room. Once you get to the end, or where the wall is on the other end, then you can see where the lighting actually brings up and shows you the ramp.
Have you ever seen anything like that?
That was on the outside of the door of the structure, the top right-hand corner of the door. And it was, if you measured it, just this, they didn't have the dots at the top. And the pyramid was more steep, but it had that exact
Lines going through it?
It was at the right hand of the door to the first structure, but I was also told that's in the top right hand corner of every door of every level of the structure.
Okay, draw though how you remember it looked.
This was a steeper pyramid. And it had those very lines going through. But there were no dots or circles at the top.
Did anybody suggest what that might mean?
A few of them thought it was a starting point. They weren't sure. Starting point from either, some suggested it could be a starting point from the structure itself, or a starting point from one of the portals. It could be a symbol for a starting point. As far as the aliens go, there's more than one race. And we've been talking to several races since 1950s and 60s.
Do you have any details about the different types of races?
The few that I have talked to that's actually seen these races, they are human form, look and act and talk like us, except for minor differences in the eyes, the mouth, the body structure. I haven't had any more detail told to me than that.
All humanoid.
Yes, ma'am.
Blonde hair?
Most no hair at all.
Shape of the head?
Human. Basic human shape. Some have larger skulls. I've been told that a few have smaller skulls, but basically the same shape as humanoid.
So what is the difference between Homo sapiens sapien and these beings?
They are far superior in strength, mental capacity. The individual that was telling me about it, strategically far superior. These were off-world from their own origins. These are the ones that we've been in contact with. And from my understanding, they have been in contact with Homo sapien since time began.
Are these the ones that made Homo sapiens sapien?
That's the general consensus, yes. They seeded us.
Thank
resembles a panel that I saw at the structure in Antarctica. That was the panel that had the star map on it.
And the star map, do you know?
From what they could estimate, it was not only our universe, but 3 universes combined in one large star map. The focal point was what our Hubble Space Telescope has photographed and recorded at that time. Then they correlated what the Hubble Space Telescope had taken photographs of that was not in our universe, but actually a different universe outside, further out than what we think our universe is.
I know that what you just said to me was that we were using the Hubble to photograph in another universe outside of this universe.
Yes, ma'am.
And then another universe.
Yes, ma'am. The way it was described to me, they were taking mathematical equations, formulas, from different points of our universe and pinpointing it to photographs or recordings that was made by our Hubble Space Telescope, which at that time was the best technological device that we had at that time.
Was this generated by extraterrestrial beings?
Yes, ma'am. There are other star maps in other facilities or structures around the planet, but at the one in Antarctica that I was in, that was the only panel that had that star map that showed the other 2 universes. All the other star maps was just of our known universe.
Did any astronomical type of scientists try to explain to you guys what they thought this star map made by extraterrestrials of showing, I'm going to say, one universe, ours, and then 2 others?
What I could wrap my brain around was all 3 star maps. The astrophysicist that was trying to explain it to me explained it to me like this. Each star map had one focal point. It was like telling a story. It showed our Milky Way. It always started at our Milky Way, inside our universe. And each pinpoint that you could go to and relate to that's been proven is like a stepping stone. This is where you start from, our Milky Way. And each point tells you this is where it's at. In all 3 star maps that I know of.
Well, could the ET star map relate to the portal jumps?
That's what I'm thinking.
Portal jumps between magnetic field anomalies on Earth, multiple universes, multiple dimensions, multiple timelines, and matter worlds. Is that what this black sun pattern on the thick black basalt doors in Antarctica means? Did the humanoid intelligence that built these 6 huge structures covering 62 acres each in Antarctica deliberately mark their huge self-activating doors with the 12-arm symbol and star map because the information was their signature and their key to a galactic portal network? After the December 7, 1941 bombing of Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by the Japanese, the attack so enraged then U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt that he declared war on Japan amid the other nations that were battling Germany and Adolf Hitler in World War II. Hitler wanted to kill all the Jews on Earth and install a new power base around the whole planet, to be controlled by tall, blonde, blue-eyed Aryans. The word Aryan is from the Sanskrit word Arya that goes back 3,000 years to the Vedic period of India. Its original meaning was to describe West Indian and Iranian Persian people as noble. That Sanskrit word Arya is also the root of the Mesopotamian country's name, Iran, that means Kingdom of the Aryans. The first people to call themselves Aryans were in Aryavarta in 1500 BC, 3,500 years ago on the banks of the Indus River that is one of the longest rivers in Asia, flowing nearly 2,000 miles from its headwaters in Tibet to the Arabian Sea. There, the Aryans first spoke Sanskrit, and their history was preserved by talking and singing. Much later, their spoken Sanskrit evolved to written and stone carvings that the Aryans could read and write themselves, including sun wheels, carved with 4, 6, or 8 rays, extending from a ring at the center of a circle that also showed up in the 9th century BC, about 3,000 years ago, in ancient Babylonian stone tablets like this one of the Sumerian sun god Shamash, on his throne before an 8-armed sun. From that ancient time also, there is a black carved Akkadian stone about the Tower of Babel that specifically mentions the black sun. Quote, "White sun, beaming above the world earth, you give the light of day. Black sun, shining inside us, you give the power of knowledge, reflecting the kingdom of Atland, which was high at the pillar of heaven before the sea rage devoured it." Close quote. That kingdom of Atland was a reference to Atlantis, a circular landmass described by the Greek philosopher Plato 2,400 years ago as a powerful and advanced kingdom on Earth, perhaps full-blood extraterrestrials, and that it sank in a night and day from some kind of attack for unknown reasons. Also 3,000 years ago, between 1550 and 1000 BC, 4, 6, and 12 straight-armed sun wheels such as these were made out of gold and other metals in Zurich, Switzerland. The symbols with the 12 rays stood for the passage of the sun through the months of the year. Around that same time in Germany, these 5- and 7-armed sonnenrods, or sun wheels, with 2 90-degree bends at the ends of the arms, were found in some women's graves. Archaeologists speculate that the ancient sun wheels buried with those women honored the primal feminine energy that gives birth to eternal cycles of life. For the Celts of Western Europe, the 12-armed black sun symbolized the energy of the universe, a powerful balance between light and darkness as the earth moves around the sun in cycles of 12 months. That 12-armed black sun was recreated in green stone inlay between 1936 and 1942 when Adolf Hitler and his close collaborator Heinrich Himmler chose the 12-armed pattern with the 2 90-degree angles at the end of each arm to represent their brutal SS security squads. The SS intensity was reinforced by making the SS initials in the form of 2 90-degree angles and called them lightning, linking the SS and power of nature to Hitler's obsession to expand Aryan dominance on Earth. By the 19th century, the term Aryan became a racial category because a French writer named Arthur de Gobineau published this 1853 book, The Inequality of Human Races. It argued there are differences between human races and that the white-skinned, blue-eyed, blonde-haired race are Aryans and are born superior to all other races on Earth. For Adolf Hitler, an example of such a blonde Aryan type was Maria Orsic, also known as Maria Orsic, the famous leader of the German Vril Society when Hitler came to power in Germany in the 1930s. Orsic was born October 31st, 1895, in Zagreb, Croatia. She said she could link telepathically to extraterrestrials and their spacecraft called Vril, V-R-I-L. allegedly from the star Aldebaran, 65 light-years from Earth. So for the German Vril Society, Aryans from northwestern India and Iran, such as these ancient curly-haired men carved in Persepolis stone, these were also linked to extraterrestrial superhumans. Further, Indus Valley Aryans from India for centuries used 4 arms turning clockwise called a swastika that symbolized the sun, prosperity, and good luck. They also used a counterclockwise 4-armed pattern called the salvastika that symbolized night or tantric aspects of sexual intercourse. The oldest swastika known is dated 5000 BC. That's 7,000 years ago, painted on the bottom of the Samara bowl found in southern Iraq. Hitler took the ancient Indian Sanskrit's positive swastika, colored it solid black, changed it from having a straight line on the bottom, and tipped the symbol forward inside a white circle surrounded by red. These are the 3 main alchemical colors for magic rituals to gain power: black, white, and red. And finally, this is the mysterious 12-armed Nazi black sun after centuries of sunwheel patterns, a symbol of the universe's energy and the powerful spiritual balance between light and darkness as the earth orbits the sun. And it is the black sun that Navy SEAL Lieutenant Commander Spartan 1 saw in August 2003, carved 7 centimeters deep into each large black basalt door he entered as he went down and down in the layers of huge structures deep under Antarctic ice. How, when, and where did the sun wheel evolve to the black sun's 12 lightning bolt arms that some people associate with occult Satanism, while others see the infinite power and energy of the universe? In this 21st century, a similar pattern shows up in physics. These arrows with the 90-degree angles at the end represent electrons accelerating through space at the speed of light and radiating electromagnetic radiation in the shape of a sphere, depicted by the 2 90-degree angles at the end of each arrow, similar to the 2 90-degree angles of the black sun. Is dipping in and out of the speed of light and through portal holes in magnetic fields the key to traveling through universes, dimensions, and timelines that collapse light years to a few hours? From Sumerian Sanskrit to Hitler to modern physics, has the black sun always been about interstellar travel? In a 2002 book by Nicholas Goodrick Clark entitled Black Sun, Aryan Cults, Esoteric Nazism, and the Politics of Identity, he wrote about the end of World War II, quote, Nazis had already prepared a secret refuge beneath the ice cap of Antarctica, possibly in alliance with Hyperboreans, described as very tall other intelligences who long ago, as Aryans, colonized under the Earth's surface. Close quote. Would the black sun on the door and in those panels be tied to something like the Nazis and be considered to be evil?
Could be, yes ma'am.
Spartan 1, you are saying we have interstellar trade, and you know American military who are going on 2-year contracts off Earth. The layers of actual outer space realities are so removed from the public and media. Who is controlling? Who knows about the interstellar trade routes and secret space program?
You'd have to get into the inner consortium, to the coalition, because that's exactly who is running it.
What's really going on between Trump and Putin?
If you went behind the scenes, they're probably chatting it up, discussing of what can be done, how we can work with these species. When the coalition first became into existence, they were talking to a certain species that were only here to help us against a different species that was, like I said earlier, hell-bent on destroying humankind. That's basically what got me started on this.
Of the 7 species that the coalition are supposed to have information about, were you ever told how many of the 7 are actual allies?
The only answer that I did get one time was that 4 were on our side, the coalition side.
How do we break open the truth that we're not alone, we never have been, we're seeded, life on Earth is seeded, and that our government is actively interacting with the seeders as well as the enemy?
That's a question that's been trying to, or a box that's been trying to be opened for years. And I agree with you, it needs to be opened. The truth needs to be out.
Why is it so difficult just to tell this truth?
I'm not sure. I'm really not.
So what do you think is holding the threat at bay?
I think it's the ones that were here from the beginning. I think that's the only thing that's holding them back at this point.
What do you think this earth means to them?
I'm not really sure.
Are we a laboratory?
I kind of got an understanding from some of it that those people, that race that seeded us, have not just come here but gone to other worlds and protected them from the same people, the same bad race that want to kill us. And that's kind of what they're doing, is they're staying out ahead of the galaxy, ahead of this race that wants us dead. And this race is coming back, or is back, or something to that nature. And I think that, from my understanding, there's one species that are trying to keep us from suffering the same thing they did. They had to leave their world and go somewhere else because their world was destroyed.
Have either of you heard in conversation or seen in a document or even had somebody speculate with you that the enemy is related to an ancient historic presence on this earth, such as the Anunnaki or the Sumerians?
I've been told that they thought that they were related to the Anunnaki, yes.
In what way?
That they were the ones that made the Anunnaki.
They are the ones that made the Anunnaki. So who is the they that made the Anunnaki?
From my perspective, the ones that want to destroy us.
If all of this is true, and you have your cousin out with a 2-year contract out in outer space, what is the American government doing to try to pull the rug out from under the control and manipulation of Earth?
I'm not sure. I can only speculate that it's... I originally thought that they were off-world to train how to fight this enemy.
The people only know what you tell them. And if that's eons of generations of people, they're going to be stupid all down through time unless you tell them all this stuff. And you don't tell them all this stuff, so it goes on so long, nobody believes it when you do tell them. And that's the state we're at now, is nobody believes anybody when they do tell them, because it's all been poo-pooed so long and made to think that it's stupid that nobody's going to believe it when they do say it. So that's why they don't worry about it. They're not worried about it because everybody thinks it's crazy, and they can just poo-poo it with something that's silly. They're brilliant at it.